Healthcare AI is exploding, but the graveyard of failed AI products in hospitals is just as full. Why? It's because many product managers building these tools, they don't have the right skills. They're great at roadmaps, but they've never been inside an ICU. Or they're brilliant clinicians who have really no idea on how to properly ship software. Today, I'm going to give you the exact 7 skills that you need to bridge that gap and actually build AI products that hospitals will adopt, that regulators will approve, and that clinicians will actually use. So if you're serious about healthcare product management and AI, stick around because number 4 will trip up even the most experienced product managers. Hi, I'm Jennifer Rist, and on this channel we cover product management, AI strategy, digital health, and how to build skills in order to get a professional opportunity in this space if you want that. If this is your world, subscribe and hit the bell. Now let's get into it. So the healthcare AI market is projected to hit around $45 billion by the end of this year. We're talking clinical decision support, predictive diagnostics, ambient documentation, AI-powered triage, all of it. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The FDA has flagged many AI devices for insufficient safety evidence. Clinician adoption rates are still low, and trust is fragile. So there's a lot of clinicians that still are not comfortable with AI tools. So the product manager who wins in this space isn't just good at product, but they're essentially a translator between the clinical world, the data science team, regulators, and the business overall. That requires a very special skill set. Skill number 1 is clinical domain literacy. So you don't need to be an MD, you don't need to be a nurse or clinician, but you need to understand clinical workflows well enough that a clinician doesn't roll their eyes when you're having a conversation with them. So you need to know what SOAP note is, you need to understand the difference between a standing order and a PRN order. You need to know why alert fatigue is one of the biggest barriers to AI adoption in hospitals. How do you build this skill? One of the ways is if you have the opportunity to shadow clinicians. So get out from behind your desk and spend some time in the field with your sales executives, visiting customers. Connect with your hospital IT and technical individuals working with these programs daily to understand how things work and operate on their end. Understand their expectations of products from an implementation and privacy and security standpoint. And having AI tools and YouTube videos, use these resources to understand the fundamentals of different frameworks such as FHIR or HL7. There's a lot of free information on the internet that can make you more literate if you take the time to learn it. So the product manager who speaks the language of their users, they will always outcompete the one who doesn't. Skill number 2 is regulatory and compliance fluency. So if your product involves any clinical decision support, especially anything that touches diagnosis or treatment, you're likely dealing with the FDA's Software as a Medical Device Framework, or SAMD. You need to understand the FDA's AI and Machine Learning Action Plan, the 510K pathway, and when your product needs to have some classification. You also need to know HIPAA inside and out, data minimization, business associate agreements, audit logs, all of that stuff. And increasingly, you need to be aware of the EU AI Act, particularly if your company has any global ambitions. The product manager who understands this aren't the bottleneck in regulatory reviews. They are going to be the ones who actually accelerate them. And you don't need to know all the answers here, but it's important to make sure that the individuals in the business that they're active members, maybe on your cross-functional team that you have on a regular basis. Most program managers who are leading cross-functional team meetings for product releases, they have this all covered. However, with AI and the increasing demands that are on all of us, don't be afraid to speak up if additional team members need to be included. Skill number 3 is data literacy with AI and machine learning fundamentals. So skill 3 is really important. You don't need to write Python code. You don't even need to know how to code, and you don't need to tune into hyperparameters. What you do need is you do need to understand what training data bias looks like, why a model is trained primarily on a certain way, on certain data, maybe looking at academic medical centers versus rural community hospital data. Is that different, and why is it different? You need to understand sensitivity versus specificity in how you have the trade-offs, and why your clinical stakeholders, why they care deeply about false negatives, especially if you're looking at maybe sepsis prediction. That seems to be a hot topic these days. You need to understand model drift. What happens when, in the real world, data distribution shifts after your model goes live? So being AI literate as a product manager means you can have productive, detailed conversations with your data science team without being lost. That alone will make you exponentially more effective. It takes time, and at first it will feel very uncomfortable. But the more that you immerse yourself in these discussions, the stronger you will get. If you are the smartest person in the room, you're probably in the wrong room. So always be curious, always be learning things that you don't know. Skill number 4 is responsible AI and ethics. So I've watched highly competent product managers completely ignore this until a regulator forced them to address it. And oftentimes a project can be so far down the development highway and possibly ready for prime time when it gets stopped and flagged. Ignorance is the wrong approach. In healthcare, the stakes are life and death for many of these products for patients. An AI triage tool that systematically underestimates pain severity in certain patient types is just a PR disaster. It's a patient safety failure. So your job as a product manager is to build equitable AI. That means diverse training data sets. That means algorithmic auditing, if I could get that out. That means explainability, that clinicians need to understand why the model flagged a certain patient, not just that it did. So build an ethics review into your product development process before launch, not after. Partner with your legal, compliance, and clinical ethics teams early and often. They will appreciate it, and your development process will be smoother for it. Also, these partners will help you when other teams falsely represent your product. Maybe sales. They're out there selling product and they're selling it against your intended use. Product intended use is your guide to do the right thing and to protect the work that your team is working on. Skill number 5 is healthcare systems and interoperability. And this one is deeply unsexy, I know. It is absolutely essential though. Healthcare data lives in silos. So you've got Epic over here, you've got Cerner over there, you've got a lab system that still sends HL7 messages, a radiology PACS that's maybe a decade old. So you got a mix of new and old and different functionality and also different interfaces. If you want your AI product to actually work in the healthcare system, it has to integrate. That means understanding the right frameworks that are involved in these processes. So once again, this comes back to skill number 1, clinical domain literacy. As a product manager, you don't need to build the integration yourself, but you need to scope it intelligently. You need to advocate for it in the roadmap prioritization, and you need to be able to explain it and explain the trade-offs to your engineering team and to your customers. Skill number 6 is multi-stakeholder management. This is a tough one too. You're managing clinicians who are skeptical of AI, or maybe they don't believe in it at all. You're managing hospital administrators who care about ROI and liability. You're managing your engineering team's capacity. You're managing payer and billing requirements. And you're managing patients, which are the end beneficiaries of all of this, right? The best healthcare AI product managers are expert facilitators. They know how to run a clinical advisory board. They know how to translate a physician's or a nurse's workflow into a product requirement. They know how to get a CMO to champion your product internally. And they know how to network with the actual customers using the products that they are responsible for and how to partner with them for input. So build relationships with your clinical champions early. They're your most credible internal advocates, and they'll unlock adoption faster than any sales deck. And most importantly, they hold the keys to what's actually important and valuable to them. You will never learn sitting behind your desk and making things up in a vacuum. Get out there and experience what actually is going on and build relationships. Your customers crave this and they will appreciate it. It builds trust and it solidifies your value proposition. Skill number 7 is outcome-driven product thinking. So in consumer tech, you might optimize DAU or NPS. In healthcare AI, your North Star metrics should be clinical outcomes always. Reduced admission rates, faster time to diagnosis, reduced medication errors, real-time outcomes for real patients. So this means building rigorous evaluation frameworks before you go live. It means running clinical validation studies and making sure that your testing environment is stellar. It means creating partnerships with healthcare systems in development and conducting beta environments. So product managers who can point to a 12% reduction in sepsis mortality or a 3-hour reduction in average ED length of stay, those product managers become irreplaceable because they're not building for selling features. They're selling evidence. It all comes down to what is the problem that you are trying to solve. So you don't need to master all 7 of these overnight, but you need a plan to develop each of them. The healthcare AI space is moving fast, and the product managers who invest in these skills, well, if you invest in them now, you will be one of the ones leading the most important products in the world over the next decade. So if this video was useful, the information was useful, smash that like button. It genuinely helps the channel. Drop a comment below. Which of these 7 skills do you feel that you need to develop or to develop deeper? I read every single comment, so please put your comments in. If there are topics you would like me to cover on this channel, please include those as well. So I hope that you enjoyed this. Thank you for watching. Thank you for getting to the end of this, and we will see you all on the next video.